well. Now we move on and we stay in the region. Now, in Turkey, the pro-Kurdish DEM Party has welcomed the withdrawal of PKK fighters from Turkish soil, calling it a critical step towards lasting peace. The Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, began pulling out its forces on Sunday, marking the end of the first phase of Ankara's peace process with the Kurdish terrorist group. The DEM Party has said that the move provokes the PKK's commitment to peace and urged the government to launch a second phase, introducing legal and political reforms. A parliamentary commission has been formed to draft a framework for the political integration of PKK members. Talks backed by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan are expected to continue this week, with DEM leaders set to meet him this week as well. The conflict has killed nearly 50,000 people over 4 decades, but both sides now say a new era of peace could be within reach. Now we stay in Europe. European aerospace manufacturing giants Airbus, Leonardo and Thales have signed a memorandum of understanding to create a new company that will combine their space activities in a bid understood to compete with SpaceX in the private space industry. Codenamed Project Bromo, talks between the three groups have started last year. This new company will create and develop a range of technologies and end-to-end solutions for space infrastructure, excluding space launchers. This partnership aims to advance Europe's strategic autonomy in the space sector, which is significant for telecommunications, global navigation, Earth observation, scientific research, exploration, and national security. The new company is likely to adopt a model similar to MBDA, Europe's multinational missile manufacturer, owned jointly by Airbus, Leonardo, and BAE Systems. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Keith Vaz. Here's a former British Prime Minister, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Keith, for staying with us. Now, how significant is this news, and do you think this will make any difference in aerospace industry or space industry?
I think it's big news when you have a European rival to the Americans. It's always good news, because the best you can get for the purposes of space exploration and travel is when you have genuine rivals and people competing. We saw that with Concorde, and we saw that with the supersonic flights. It makes a difference. People obviously have their own views on Elon Musk and his activities as far as space is concerned, but it's quite right that the European nations should be doing this. They've got some of the best scientists in the world, and they've decided to work together in order to achieve this. The only problem is, Asuma, it's very expensive. Space is very expensive. That's why it's always better to do a collaboration, because it means that you spend less money. You're not competing in a sense. However, I don't think there's a possibility of the European governments competing, giving up the competition and working with Elon Musk and his group of people, simply because they don't like Elon Musk. It is therefore something that I'm looking forward to. It's very exciting that they are doing this. But, you know, it's a lot of money. And how do you justify any expenditure to your taxpayers who are facing all kinds of difficulties? And you're saying, oh, well, by the way, we're spending some more money in order to go to Mars or to the moon or wherever. They won't like it. It's a vanity project to some extent, because we don't find anything when we get there, apart from the fact that the planet's surface, like the moon's surface, is different from Earth's. What are you going for? That is usually the objective of any trip. If you're going down from Delhi to Gurgaon, you ask yourself, why am I going? And this applies to space exploration as well. Why are we doing this? And I think this is a question that will confront these individuals. They're definitely going to ask for state funding of some kind, or state facilities or in-kind support. That is something that will always happen.
Yes, building on that, do you think should European governments increase funding and coordination to support these private sector collaboration in space technology? And what do you think would be their reason or excuses? You know, like you've mentioned that is very different, and the reason, a reasonable reason, might be difficult for the taxpayers to agree to.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what they say. When John F. Kennedy announced, we will go to the moon and back by the end of the decade in the 1960s, you're far too young to remember that. As you probably weren't born then, unlike me. And for us oldies who remember that speech, it was so exciting, and it led to the Apollo program, and all kinds of things happened. Of course, India has its own space giants, people who've gone into space. Everyone wants to do that. The whole nation is united. It's like winning the World Cup. People get very, very excited, but it all comes with a cost, and that is why it is important that you have a clear understanding of what the public will say when it has to come and pay for this, if it is going to be funded by public money. If it's the private sector, then of course that's different. But for sure, they will be asking European governments for some resources. And the EU, of course, as we know, has plenty of money given by its donor countries, so I'm sure they can afford it themselves.
Right. And lastly, Keith, what are the potential geopolitical implications of Europe consolidating its space capability under a single multinational entity?
Only good news. I think, as we saw with Concorde and the British and the French, old rivals over centuries, coming together to produce the greatest supersonic aircraft there has ever been. It costs a lot of money, but these kinds of collaborations are worth it. You just have to put aside your differences. But, there will be countries in the EU, Hungary, Slovakia, one or two others, possibly Italy, who will say, why on earth are we doing this? So it's better it's done through the private sector, and it's better that the private sector then brings government on board. But at the moment, it is something that is only on the drawing board, but something certainly I would personally support.
Yes, we'll be eyeing that over here as well. Thank you always, Keith Vaz, for joining us and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. At least 3 people have been killed in Haiti as tropical storm Melissa caused devastating flooding in the Caribbean, and meteorologists have warned that the storm could become a Category 4 hurricane, which has now become already. This comes as Hurricane Melissa intensified to Category 5 strength today as it neared Jamaica with up to 76 centimeters of rain and a life-threatening storm surge. According to the National Hurricane Center in Miami, the hurricane was centered about 130 miles south-southwest of Kingston, Jamaica, and about 315 miles south-southwest of Guantanamo, Cuba. It has also warned of life-threatening and catastrophic flash flooding and landslides throughout the weekend in Jamaica as well as southern Hispaniola. And that's a wrap on the NewsX Eurozone. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.